Who's lining up? Omar Bronson just walked in. We can start.
We're waiting for you.
But we've been joined by the Honorable Councilman Jose Rizar. And it looks like our technical matters have been addressed. We're ready to roll. I want to welcome you to the Ad Hoc River Committee. I think Councilor Labange is doing some fine wine tasting somewhere in France and acknowledging, I'm certain river issues out there. And Councilman Rizar is with us, so I believe we can start just by point of information. We had a great visit from engineers from Foshan, China, a small town of 6 million people. And they are challenging the powers that be, if you will, to bring the river back. They have a beautiful river that they're revitalizing, and they wanted to know how we got started and what makes us work and all that good stuff. They're visiting about maybe 8 other cities throughout the country, and they're with us for 3 or 4 days, and that was last week, and that was a really good event. I think now we have folks from Germany have come here, Israel, at least 4 or 5 other countries. Korea, there's a list out there. But what's good is that we're all learning from each other, and we all believe in the same thing and how the rivers can perform. So that being said, we have item number 1, and can you please present item 1?
Item number 1, verbal presentation by the River Revitalization Corporation relative to the status update of their operation.
Okay. Mr. Omar Brownson, fresh from the big party.
Yeah, good afternoon, Omar Brownson, Executive Director, LA River Revitalization Corporation. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. Sort of 3 categories of work. One is obviously our real estate projects. You'll be hearing more specifically about the 7th Street Bridge later in the agenda. As you know, our main focus is on breaking ground on the bridge in North Atwater. That continues to be on schedule, and excited about the amount of support that we're getting throughout the process to make that project happen.
Great.
We're looking to have a ribbon cutting opportunity in the next, hopefully before the end of the year, related to a small community garden project in Frogtown that we were able to help support, get some funding to get that project moving forward, and they're actually in construction now.
Great.
So a number of great things happening on the real estate side. As it relates to programs and policy, our second annual Let's Talk River event. This year we honored the mayor. Last year we had the opportunity to honor you, Councilman Reyes.
Thank you.
There's been, it was a great turnout. We had over 250 people, almost twice the number of folks from last year, and we're able to showcase a number of local vendors, including Dry River Brewing, which is a new brewery opening up. I think it'll be opening up in either Councilman Weezar's or Reyes' district. So it's exciting to...
It's another liquor license.
This was, I mean,
It isn't so.
This is, they're going to sort of restaurant, and they're actually brewing the beer on site, so it's actually creating kind of local jobs as well. It's not just an eatery or whatnot. Also, we were obviously worked with the council and the mayor's office and the county on the NBC Universal effort, which you heard last week at Plum, and that was a great victory for the LA River to have over $3.5 million in planning and construction dollars for the bike path along there. And so I think that was a great example of great public, corporate, and community working together. So there's been a lot happening. We've also just hired a community and events coordinator, which is helping us kind of continue to have better and better representation in the local community. This morning we had a table at the LAUSD new Sally Ride Science Center at the high school, at the Sonia Sotomayor High School, and so we had a table there that was staffed by Miranda.
And they have a Los Angeles River High School as well.
And they have LA River High School as well.
So it's interesting how things are happening.
So a lot of wonderful things moving forward.
Great, and your new hires from Highland Park as well, correct?
Miranda Rodriguez, she's,
Okay, all right.
she's our new community and events coordinator. She bikes to work,
Okay.
8 minutes, so.
Walking the walk, all right. And riding the bike. Fantastic. Any questions from Councilman? Well, congratulations. Keep up the good work and maintain that intestinal fortitude and keep pushing.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. So there's no action on this item, and just want to thank you again, Omar, for your hard work and the board and everyone involved. Thanks. So, item number 2.
Presentation by the Bureau of Engineering relative to the status of the 6th Street Viaduct Replacement Project.
Okay.
Good morning, Alfred Mata from the Bureau of Engineering. Give me one moment to get this presentation up, please.
Okay, you're raising anticipation here, you know that, right?
Yes, unfortunately.
Can't hear anybody breathe out there. Everyone's on the edge of their seats. What will this look like?
Okay, there we go.
Does it come with trumpets?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
Okay, again, my name is Alfred Mata. I'm the project manager from the Bureau of Engineering for the 6th Street Viaduct Replacement Project. So I'm here to give you a brief update on the status of the project. The first slide I have up here is an overview. It just gives you an aerial view of the viaduct, which runs from the Boyle Heights community on the east to the west side into the downtown area, the Arts District. It crosses railroads and the river, as well as an industrial area here, and the Arts District side on the west side. It's a 3,500-foot long viaduct. It's the longest bridge span in the city, or that the city owns, I should say. Here's a view of where it crosses the river. You're probably very familiar with the 6th Street Viaduct, I'm sure. Here's the river, here's the railroads, and there's some high voltage transmission lines that traverse the river banks, which are something we have to contend with as we're redesigning the new viaduct. We issued an RFP in April announcing a design competition. The Councilman Huizar and the Mayor announced an international design competition in April. These are some of the project elements we had identified. One of the things I would point out is the in-channel work in the river. We want to make sure it's consistent with the revitalization plans, is what we told the competing consultant teams. In terms of the construction budget by element, you see this line item here. This is a bridge project after all, but there is some funding available for river and landscaping improvements, which total about $5 million in the construction budget.
Great.
The winner of the design competition was announced about a week and a half ago by the councilman and the mayor. It was a design that includes a ribbon of arches stretching from the east side all the way to the west side. So instead of just having a signature span in the center of the river, the signature bridge spans the entire length of the viaduct, which is really neat. And the consultant team was led by HNTB. Here's a rendering of the viaduct from the Boyle Heights community overlooking the 101 freeway, and you can see downtown LA in the background. You can see the various sizes of the arches. There's 3 different sizes of arches, 2 really large ones over the railroads. I'll call a medium one over the 101 freeway, and the same size over the river, and then arch spans throughout the rest of the viaduct. There's a total of 10 pairs of arch spans. The next slide is a rendering of the arch span over the river. You can see one of the feature here is this platform that's a viewing platform over the river. It really brings the pedestrians, or gives them an access to interact with the river at a very close level with the water flowing underneath them.
Great. The work on the embankments is included as well?
Good question. As I showed in the construction budget,
It's an inspiring picture.
yes, it is. What the consultant teams were very good in envisioning a future for this viaduct.
Oh, it's one of
And
those.
the-
One of those, huh?
One of those. But there is some funding, as I stated, for the river, for river-related improvements. Right in the area where I'm highlighting right now is the access tunnel to the river from the 6th Street side.
So,
And
okay, but the terracing is not, I just want to be real clear.
I think potentially some of it. We're just not sure exactly how much of it would be.
Okay.
We certainly want to improve the access through the tunnel, which would also provide this access to this platform that goes over the river. So the main part of the project is the viaduct, but as we work through the design, we're going to try to do as much as we can to also enhance the river. That's an important part of the project to us.
Great.
This is another view from underneath the viaduct on the west side, looking back towards the tunnel. Right about there is where the tunnel would be, going underneath the railroads into the river. So the space underneath, they're proposing to develop it into a plaza area. As you can see, it'd be a very nice community space, community amenity, provide good connection to the river. Here's another view across the river in more of the industrial area. One of the things that we're doing on this project is realigning the viaduct so that it's a little bit to the north, so that leaves some area to the south where the existing viaduct is, and that's the space you see being proposed to have a garden. Again, we're going to try to include as many of these improvements as we can and stretch the budget as far as we can. Certainly to the extent that there is available funding elsewhere, we're going to pursue it to help supplement what is allocated for these improvements.
So that's the remnant right-of-way?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And you can see the connectivity from the viaduct down through the stairways on the structure to the area below. And there's also proposed with some stairs up to the top of the arches, which provides a really unique view of the area around the viaduct, including the river and downtown LA. This is an overview of the project schedule. By summer of 2014, we look to complete all of the right-of-way activities. We're impacting potentially up to 32 parcels. There's a significant amount of right-of-way work associated with this project. And we're looking to complete design at the same time in summer of 2014 and begin viaduct construction or demolition in 2015 and complete the construction by the end of 2018.
When you say right-of-way activities, you're including infrastructure issues as well as parcels and other properties?
Yes, the right-of-way activities would include acquiring parcels and doing utility relocations, working out agreements with utilities, and as well as working out construction and maintenance agreements with the railroads that we're going to be interacting with during construction.
I'm assuming the Army Corps is also folded in.
Correct. The Army Corps, we'll have to coordinate with the Army Corps, Department of Fish and Game,
Great.
LA County Flood Control.
Fantastic. It's going to be fun.
Yes, we're very excited.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yes, that concludes my report.
Well, thank you. I think this is indeed an exciting project that initially when this was announced, as you know, I wasn't too crazy that we're going to tear down a beautiful historic bridge, but certainly after looking at, calling upon some national experts to come in and look at it, we had to do it. And then I went from that to say, well, why can't we just replicate what we have there? But one of the most interesting points about why we didn't just replicate it is because we wanted to make available more use of the land below, make available more of the, lessen the footprint of the bridge and allow the river to actually have more space. And what I like most about this design is that it's interconnectedness with the lower level, with the river itself. And it's continuous, and I thought that was exciting, so that you not only have a point A and point B to, you're not only going from point A to point B, but you actually create a destination point in point C, meaning the river and upper floors to see the views, etc. In terms of funding, a lot of folks said we probably wouldn't have been able to get all this funding together for this $400 million bridge. We got some very creative minds to make that possible. I think we're only contributing about 1% from the city, right?
Correct, yes.
And so in terms of all the additional nice green areas and some of the lush areas that we see in the designs, I think if we put the same amount of attention and energy, we could probably come up with some additional funding to make that possible. So I'm not as concerned about that. I think we could eventually get there. One question I had, and maybe I should have asked you before I made these announcements where we made the announcement for the winner of this international competition, which I think was a great thing because we got a lot of great proposals and really heightened the expectations of what we could think of, what we expected from this bridge. But my question is, I've been saying, and you could either say it's true or not, I hope you say it's true. I've been saying that we can actually expedite some of the plans we have for the river because of what we're going to do in reconstructing this bridge, meaning that as we're looking for that additional funding, as we're looking to get creative about bringing more resources to make those amenities for this bridge work at the lower level, can we expedite some of the planning that has gone on through this committee and through Councilmember Reyes and see that a lot sooner than we had expected?
One of the things that we're doing on this project is trying alternative project delivery method, construction manager, general contractor method. That alternative delivery method involves bringing the contractor into the project development process earlier. Instead of seeing the contractor seeing the plans and specs at the time the project is advertised for bids, the contractor is involved during the design phase and is able to provide some input to the constructability, how to best use resources, how to best design it and construct it. As well, that means once you're done with design, you have a contractor ready to go to work because the contract's in place. And it enables us to very quickly, if we can identify work packages and pull them out and do those design packages separately for river-related improvements or any of the other improvements like the intersection improvements for the detours or some of the other landscaping or roadway improvements or the demolition of the buildings we acquire, we want to issue those contracts sooner. So in the next few weeks, I think you'll be seeing an ordinance come to City Council requesting the authorization to use this construction manager general
I think
contractor.
we've already seen that go through council. Or did we?
I haven't seen it.
Last week, we went to Public Works Committee, and they approved it, and they made their recommendations, so it should be coming soon.
Well, in terms of improving the banks and access to the river and creating some recreational and passive areas for the parks and for access to the river, I think as we move forward, we should think about how we start looking for some of that funding now so that we have this great opportunity in redesigning the whole area there, that it would help us get to that point and realize some of the things we've been planning for a lot sooner than we thought we would.
Yes, we will be doing that.
You know, what's this conversation simulates the possibilities when we look at I'm grappling with this, but when we look at stormwater harvesting technologies and how you capture the stormwater and how you make available these green spaces, we've got these TMDLs we have to deal with, these federal mandates that might allow us to compete for other funds at the federal level. Now that the river is a navigable water body, you have the Clean Water Act. Now you have other pools of funds, so to speak, where you have resources there. When you look at this remnant piece of land that the council member is referring to, if we start connecting these silos between Bureau of Sanitation and the bridge building team of the engineering, is that strategy possible here, or are already implementing that type of thinking in terms of collaboration?
Certainly that's possible. I think now that we have a design concept in place, we can explore those further. One of the things we wanted to do, we've said all along, is we want to make this the most sustainable bridge in the city, and that's one of the aspects is stormwater improvement. And to the extent that there's funding available to help supplement that, we're going to pursue that. We've actually had a meeting internally about that very subject in terms of how can we incorporate this into water quality and see if there's water quality funding out there. So it's a discussion we've had with some folks from Water and Power and from the LA River Master Plan Group.
It was always amazed me, and this is actually one of the triggers that started this whole conversation so many years ago, is how Berlin treated its substructures as it behaved as a filtering program, using caissons and cement, foundation work. And so they not only support the main plazas around Pots and Plots, but they function as ways to capture stormwater and clean it, and actually recycle it and send it back up to the levels where they performed as fountains and greenways, recycling. And this was all engineered to behave with multiple purposes in mind. That's been our mantra for the past 11 years. Does this area lend itself to that type of design and or function?
Potentially. We need to explore that further. But one of the key things I think you hear when you talk about these things is the watershed area that you're able to capture, how much water runs into this area. We need to look at that a little closer to see how much we can do with that water. We certainly want to capture the runoff from the viaduct and treat that. But to the extent that we can even gather water from the areas, surrounding areas, we'll try to do that as well.
Well, when you look on the CD14 side of it, we have it's the Hollenbeck, the reservoir. Is that, you got the body of water there, right? Right next to you,
right by the-
area.
Yes, right by the freeway, right.
The ability to create these buffer zones of green, to me, are tremendous opportunities. And especially given the levels of lung ailments and all the good stuff that, the things that we suffer from, to promote those kinds of concepts would be great. So I just wanted to share that with you, and we're always pushing the envelope, if you will. But we have to be opportunistic with these kinds of challenges. And I congratulate you and your team. And Alfred Mata is going to be having his light on pretty late at night these coming months, right? If not years.
Yes.
It'll be good. It'll go fast, too, believe me. When we started the goal line, it went 10 years and it got done on time and on budget. But it'll be a good, the end result will be amazing. So I look forward to working with you on that, at least for the next 8 months. Anything else, Councilman?
Oh, I just want to congratulate the team that got us here. We had a great team that started 4 years of work, and we still have a long way to go, but at least to get to this point, I think we are exceeded people's expectations in terms of where we could be, and to think ahead in terms of the access to the river and connection to the river for this bridge. I think we never lost that sight.
Great.
So I think it's a good thing. Now it's a matter like anything else, funding. So let's continue on that path. So thanks.
Great, so no official action needed, but I want to thank you again, and I'm glad we can put this on the record and let people know all the great work you're doing, you and the team, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3.
Number 3, presentation by the Bureau of Sanitation regarding the status of the Humboldt River Greenway Project.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Councilman Reyes, Councilman Huizar. Thank you for allowing us time to talk a little bit about Humboldt Greenway Project. And in front, use a diagram that shows what it could look like once it's constructed. And in the back, it shows you location where it currently looks like. It's a really a not good-looking site. So that's one of the reasons that we're doing this. My name's Wing Tam. I'm the Assistant Division Manager with Bureau of Sanitation. I oversee the Green Infrastructure Program, and that we're responsible for public health and environment by promoting water quality in the LA River. And as you can see, one of the proud contributions we make is to revitalize the LA River by implementing this Greenway Project. And as you can see, this particular project is a multi-benefit project that achieves 2 primary things. One is to enhance the community of Lincoln Heights, and this is a 1-acre site by making it more bike-friendly, open space for other folks to use, as well as a gathering place that's close to the heart of the city in Avenue 18 and Humboldt Street. Secondarily, it has helped to meet a water quality standard by keeping the LA River clean and healthy. This project collects stormwater from primarily industrial site, about 135 acres. And the idea is to daylight the stream, put in vegetation, reuse some of that water for irrigating this area so that it does improve the water quality. As we all celebrated 2 weeks ago, the groundbreaking occurred 2 weeks ago, and we are moving forward with this project to finish this project by the summer next year through our help and friends from Bureau Engineering. And we are thrilled to get this project done to celebrate the opening of this.
Great. If you look on the backside, Councilmember, you can see that right to the north is the City of LA's old jail that's been abandoned. It's also the home of the Latino Arts Theater. Mm-hmm. And going, I believe, would be towards North Saffron Road, there's a facility there for housing, where they converted an abandoned warehouse-type building into several units of housing. And adjacent to it, going, I guess, would be southeast, is the property of the city and the Young Knight Church, who also have tremendous plans for this area. So I'm hoping that this green footprint, if you will, this one step, although 1 acre, will be a way in which we can show how we can begin to heal this industrial corridor by promoting these green pockets. So I appreciate that hard work, and look forward to seeing it happen. Okay, sir.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. And there's no action here as well? Next item?
No action. Number 4, Planning Department Bureau of Engineering monthly status reports relative to Los Angeles River projects.
As he raced towards the chairs. Okay. Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon. I'll let Deborah go first.
Good afternoon, Deborah Weintraub from the Bureau of Engineering. I have a few things to report that haven't also already been mentioned. As Omar mentioned, we are working with the River Revitalization Corporation on the environmental clearance for the North Atwater Multimodal Bridge Project, and that is ongoing and on schedule. Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, we're doing an in-progress review of the Army Corps feasibility study with staff from the South Pacific region and headquarters. And I'm here today because the rest of the River Project Office is on a tour of the river with Corps staff.
Great.
So that's a very important milestone for us to get kind of feedback and input from folks who will eventually be reviewing the final report.
So this is that group
This is
of
the in-
decision makers?
Yes.
Wow.
So that's a significant event.
Yes.
I also wanted to mention that this past week, the LA River Project Office, at the request of the federal government and with your office's support, had Carol Armstrong attended the Urban Waters National Training Workshop in D.C. and spoke about our efforts here. LA was highlighted. Nancy Sutley personally mentioned LA River as her favorite project.
Wow.
And it was highlighted for our ability to really develop a work plan with all of the federal agencies and
Right.
some milestones. So that was very nice.
So all those DC trips added up to something,
They
right?
do add up. We have credibility.
Okay, good.
I also wanted to mention that we are also working on a bridge project, a Taylor Yard Bike Bridge, with your office council member, and we did interviews for a consultant team, and will this week select a consultant team to move forward into design for that project. And lastly, we hosted with the American Institute of Architects and the American Society of Landscape Architects a design charrette on the 20th of October to look at visualization of feasibility study proposals, which was all a volunteer effort, and we got some very good results out of that. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Before you start, I just want to ask you one question. When it comes to advocating on behalf of the city with the group that's here today, do we have a sense of who from the Obama administration should be talking to them? Do we know that yet?
I couldn't answer that question. What we will end up with is a list of key issues from the group that is looking at our work to date, and then I probably would have a more informed answer.
I did leave a flash drive of our work to Valerie Jarrett directly. I handed it to her.
Right.
And I made her aware of the potential jobs that can be created within the second largest city in the country and other good stuff that could be with their support. So I want to know how hard I need to push.
Okay.
Because I want to follow up with that.
Well, we'll certainly follow up with your staff about what the key issues are that come out of this meeting.
Okay, great. Appreciate that very much. Yes.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Claire Bowen, City Planning, and I don't have a pretty drawing that is the Humboldt Project. I don't have beautiful renderings like the 6th Street Viaduct, but I did have a map for you that hopefully you got in your package. That
Spoke like a Drew planner. Okay. We got a map.
we love maps.
Okay.
They really, I think, help tell a wonderful story. And this one, I think, highlights the various planning activities that have been happening along the LA River as a result of the master plan 7 years ago, 7 years ago, starting with the Rio that is still with the city attorney's office, but hopefully in front of us, soon. So, and then it then also shows overlap. Hopefully you have a map. You can see the councilman looking for it. Then highlights the different planning activities that are also then kind of coinciding with that, starting with the Warner Center, a specific plan that, its boundaries were increased to include all the way up to the Los Angeles River. The Universal Project, while that's not a city-activated project, it is obviously coming to our department to look at. And then obviously the NELA study that hasn't actually started yet, but is going to be starting soon. We'll actually have a staff person who will be assigned to working on that project. So the opportunities are really tremendous for that, and that actually overlaps a little bit with the Cornfield Arroyo Seco specific plan. And then we are initiating, or did initiate just a few weeks ago, reinitiated the update to the Boyle Heights Community Plan, really thanks to the efforts of Councilman Weezar to help our department get funding for that effort. So we're really excited about that, and there was obviously, it's an opportunity to start to talk again about how that community plan can really be invigorated, especially in terms of connections down to the river, and the 6th Street Viaduct certainly is a big part of that.
Fantastic. Is it possible in the form of a report back, knowing all the work you have already, but looking at the quantification of its economic development impact? I think what needs to be emphasized to the chambers of the world that this is a multi-dimensional impact, and one of the dimensions has to do with economic development. So, for example, the $1.6 billion NBC studio project, which has the river within it. We just heard that they're speaking to $1 million improvement program for the river corridor. But we're also talking about X amount of jobs will be created from that. We look at the CAST, the specific plan, and its built-out scenario. We're speaking to so many potential jobs because of the introduction of light industrial complementing residential, the work of the 6th Street Bridge. I mean, these are caveats, these are scenarios that are being built up, some that are being realized now, some that will be realized in the future. I think folks are having a hard time connecting the dollars to this. And if we can promote this notion of marketability and how attractive it can be to the private sector to have environmentally friendly scenarios, and the work that deals with the ecosystems complementing these new designated uses, I think can go a long way in terms of giving it that desirability to match, to bring in philanthropic dollars, to bring in government dollars. Because in of itself, it's going to create this kind of change. Is that something that we can work on or put together some kind of a synopsis or a summary or a bullet? Because I think we did it in the River Master Plan, and we did a section there, but that was 2 years ago now. Since then, other projects have come to fruition. We are moving on policy since then. So if we can get an update or a profile, an economic profile of sorts. Do you hear you see where I'm going?
I think that maybe something that Bureau of Engineering and Planning could work together a little bit. I think it would be relatively easy to kind of compile information of our own specific projects. It might be more difficult to then kind of extend it into a more detailed economic analysis that looks more broadly at what kind of the ramifications are of the kind of the investment in the jobs. But we could at least start with doing sort of a compilation of the...
I mean, wishful thinking would have it that the Jobs Committee, under a more formal committee, would see the relevance of this work. And Transportation Committee, in terms of the bike system, the relevance of this work. Because as I begin to fade in this ad hoc structure, the formality and institutionalization of river now permeates different arenas throughout the city. And so to keep its vigor, its energy, its relativity, its relevance, I think my colleagues and others need to see its strength in the economic arena. Is that something we can, I mean, I'm just brainstorming here, I'm shooting from the hip, but it just seems to me that it's about time we start creating that value in real dollar terms. Because I think the CEO does a great report and tells us how much money we're spending and how much we've allotted. But now we're talking about the multiplier effect.
That becomes the more complicated kind of analysis.
Yeah.
We certainly don't have the funding or the capacity in our department to do that now, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't start to try to look.
Even a thumbnail sketch, give us, one slice, a scenario, something that's doable, that was within your grasp, and then we can work from there.
Okay, sure.
I think we can start with something.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
But on my end, I'm just really excited about the Boyle Heights Community Plan, and I think that gives us a great opportunity to look at how that connects with the Rio plan and also the Rivers Master Plan. But it's kind of too early to see how they're going to connect, but we just know there's a tremendous opportunity there. And to be honest with you, when we move forward the funding for the Boyle Heights Community Plan, I didn't realize how much of an impact this also may have on the river. I was just thinking about how far behind we were, and so much is happening in Boyle Heights, so much pressure to develop, and yet we hadn't updated our community plan, but here's another opportunity with the river, and so that's exciting. And on the BOE, there's the 7 projects that you applied for funding for the Regional Watershed Management Plan. Did you list them here, or do we have those available? Or
I don't have the list available, but I can get that.
if you could send those to
Okay,
our
yeah.
offices, that'd be great, just to be aware of which ones you're applying for. That'd be great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good work. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Hang in there. And there is no action on this one?
I think note and file. I think
No, then file, okay.
so.
Our next item?
Number 5, motion, Huizar Reyes relative to proposed creative concepts for upgrading the existing 7th Street Bridge and improving public usable space in that bridge.
Okay, so who's here for that item? Okay. So we at the conceptual stage on this particular project? Okay. So this is where you guys were with the 6th Street Bridge so many years ago.
Trying to get 2 other bridges.
How many more do you have? Washington, is Washington Bridge there too?
We're trying to keep this one, though.
That's right.
More controversy, you love it. So this is a concept that is being floated out there, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. I won't steal your thunder, I'll just wait.
Far left. Come be-
There we go.
Good afternoon, council
Good
members.
afternoon.
I'm Arthur Golding. I'm an architect, and I prepared the conceptual design for this project. Councilman Huizar, I'd like to thank you for introducing this motion, and Councilman Reyes for seconding it. The 7th Street Bridge is the only one that's double-decked, and there's a space that's been sealed away for about 85 years.
Mm.
And it's a beautiful space, and one that can become a public space. It's in a unique position in the urban landscape. One of the things that it's going to provide is the very best place to look at the beautiful new 6th Street Bridge. As you look in the top photograph, you're looking south and seeing the 7th Street Bridge, and then the lower photograph, you're on top of the 7th Street Bridge looking north toward the existing 6th Street Bridge.
Mm.
And it could become a destination for both locals and visitors. It could become a real
What's there
place.
now? I mean, you said it hasn't been open 80 years or so.
It's basically.
Are you going to get to that?
I'm not going to show you pictures of it today, but you've seen them, I think. But it's a mess in there. Periodically, homeless have occupied parts of it. There's a lot of graffiti. There's some utilities. The floor is dirt because it was never needed to be finished. So it needs some work.
Used to be a rail line, correct?
Yes. Maybe not quite the Ponte Vecchio, but it could become a place where you can dine, shop, stroll.
I like those embankments, those are nice.
This, this drawing from the Historic American Engineering Survey shows the 1910 existing bridge, and then these rows of columns were introduced to support the superstructure. And as you said, Councilman, both the 1910 version and the 1927 version were designed to carry rail cars. So the bridge is quite strong, and it was seismically reinforced in 95. Using it will not impose any significant structural loads. It's
And this doesn't have that deterioration of the cement?
no, it does not.
Okay.
And a couple of possibilities of what it might look like. It could become a festival marketplace. I call it Mercado del Rio, and shows here the idea of vendors, food stalls, places to sit, places to observe.
If you remember Jason Neville.
Jason's in the
That's on
picture
the
there.
left.
In the plan view, you see
Strategic.
you see the abutments on each side and the central piers, and it sort of forms three chambers. The blue-green tone is our countertops for like stalls. And it's about 16,000 square feet of total area, and for comparison, that's about the size of Mercado La Paloma near USC. So it's a pretty good size space.
So the access to this level is, can you get there from the river?
No, the best way to do this is to come down from above. And the reason here is we have historic fabric of this bridge, and it's beautiful fabric, and we can leave it untouched. And we can also not have to do any work in the riverbed, so we avoid all of those complications. So it can be both constructed from above, and then once it's in operation, it can be accessed from above.
It would be a pedestrian access that you would access along the top.
And perhaps run a dash line to it to make it easy to get to.
I think Arthur has taken the lead on sort of the conceptual concept. He presented to us probably close to a year ago, and then we brought in AECOM, the engineering firm, to help us take the concept that Arthur put together and begin to sort of say what would be the cost to putting something like this together. And so if you look at just sort of the atrium renovation, is the sort of major structural change, and then the pedestrian walkway on the top, which gets to the question that you raised, which of access. We're looking at close to about a $10.5 million project, which on the scheme of things to sort of revitalize a very important place in Los Angeles, and certainly to be able to take advantage of the views of a $401 million bridge. This is very small on the scope of things. As you know, we are building a bridge now, and sort of the lessons learned of creating access, working on sort of leveraging public and philanthropic dollars to create these great icons along the river. Again, this is what we're looking to break ground on soon. And then also, again, this is the project at Lincoln Heights of how do we take buildings that have been falling apart or concepts that haven't been able to move forward and bring new resources to the table and sort of breathe fresh air into some of these public spaces. These are some of the type of projects that we've been moving forward on.
So exciting. I think if Councilman Labange was here, he'd be asking, where do we put the rubber dams so you can have a water body where the bridges can have that much more of a view shed? We have cement there. God willing, we're going to change that feature, but just to hold water and just to contain it periods of time throughout the year, is that in anyone's radar, or are we just kind of like wishfully thinking? Can anyone answer from the engineering or planning or bureau?
You know, it's a concept we've talked about for a long time.
Right.
I don't think that there's any project right now at this moment that's talking about a rubber dam.
Right. Or
But
just to hold water in the river so it can
Yeah.
have a water feature in the city.
Right.
Okay, there's not one.
not
Okay.
one that I know of right now. I
Okay.
just would add to this presentation that this is a concept of a reuse of an existing piece of infrastructure that It's been a favorite of mine for a long time, really, since Arthur took me there. I think it would be a phenomenal focus, bring a phenomenal focus to the river. There are a couple of issues that from an engineering and land use perspective that we're going to have to wrap our heads around. We're going to have to clarify ownership of that space.
Gonna have to what?
Clarify ownership of that space. We're going to have to clarify the compatibility of use and public life safety, access, egress, all
Going
of
back
that.
to ownership,
Yeah.
at one time in the 4th Street Bridge, the 4th and Lorena Street Bridge in Boyle Heights, I wanted to, not a park, but to put some more vegetation underneath the bridge and et cetera, and I thought it was all city-owned property, but apparently underneath that bridge, every adjacent property owner across the street has an easement owns an easement over that property, and we couldn't get 100% cooperation to allow us to do anything with that land. So
Right.
it's always interesting to me in these public lands how all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's some ownership someplace that nobody knows about. So it's going to be a lot more complicated than we.
Well, right of way, the city is granted the use of the right of way, but we don't actually have the underlying fee ownership. But this is an interesting case where it's not the underlying land that we're concerned about, it's within the bridge. So we may own that space. The city doesn't right now typically lease out that kind of public right-of-way space easily. We might do a revocable permit, so there'll be issues of long-term clarifying liability issues.
Right.
But it's all well worth
Absolutely.
working on and trying to clarify.
So there's a number of things. I would assume if we move forward, the intent of this motion was to bring it to light and see if we could continue moving forward. We would love to continue moving forward. We need to do more rigorous technical evaluations, find out some answers to these questions, refine designs, further define, there's cost estimates, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But administratively, you're doing this pro bono, correct? Corporation is helping. On our side, it always comes down to cost on the city side, administrative costs. Are we okay? The work that's been doing so far, we're okay with it on our end?
Right, your staff contacted me because they were worried that they were handing us an unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
So our focus is really going to be on the issues I just mentioned about
Okay.
ownership and legal issues, and then we're going to let the Revitalization Corporation take the lead.
So we would love, if you're so willing to continue doing the work you've done so far, to get a report back, let's say 120 days to see where we are and get an update on this. And I think if you feel the enthusiasm, kind of tired today, but I'm enthusiastic about this, I'm sure from Councilman Reyes as well, that this is exciting, and this is a type of partnership we'd love to do with the corporation to continue to bring more people and make it a destination point to come to either bridge or the river. Like I said, on the 6th Street Bridge, it's not just point A, point B, we're creating a C, that itself is a destination point. I think this could be the same thing too. But, we would love to continue pursuing this, and later on, we need to work harder and get more support for this on our end. We want to see what the possibilities are before we go. So it's a conceptual exploratory point right now, but I think it's well worth it. One question I have is, if we want to draw people there, but most likely they'll have to park on either side and walk and then come in somewhere, a hatch or something. I don't know what we're going to do. When you're creating a commercial area, that's kind of not the best scenario for that. So I think that needs some, we may have a great place to go, but if people are not willing to park their cars on either side and then walk and go to the place, we really have to explore that a bit further to see what the access will be.
Right, and there is no possibility to park anywhere close. The good news is that there is a median on the bridge where the trains were intended to run, and it's 14 feet wide, so there's plenty of room to operate in there. We can do a really dramatic entrance that, makes an image and attracts people. But it's going to be a hike, and that bridge is pretty long, and from anywhere you could park, it's going to be a pretty good.
So who has access to that level?
Who has access? Now, no one. There are some tiny little holes that were made for maintenance in the end.
Okay, so that's how you got in?
I haven't been in there.
Aha.
Well, you've been in
But
there?
some of
Very
my friends
smooth.
have.
Very smooth, Arthur. That was a long lens.
As kids?
No.
Why don't we do this as well? If you don't mind, if we could set up and work with the city departments to do a site visit with
Yeah.
my
Oh, that'd be
office, the
great.
corporation, anybody else who wants to go, City One, anybody.
They'd like to
You're
go.
invited too, city clerk and city CLA and CAO, anybody wants to go. If we could, my office could work with you to help arrange that, and that'd be great.
The bad
Have a
post.
better understanding of what's there. Yeah. Flashlights.
It'll be interesting to see because it's hard to plan in a bubble, and it's a great concept. And unless you're there, it's hard to understand the possibilities. I've seen a lot of pictures. I've seen a lot of pictures of the past, but connectivity today it'll be a challenge. So it'll be interesting. That'll be good. This is exciting. All right, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't see any public comment cards on this one, and we'll talk about a report back in 120 days from the River Corporation and the city on this item.
So move the motion, but we're having a report back, so,
We'll include that in the report.
but does it go to council or just stays here?
Got to go to
We'll
council.
council with that instruction.
With 120 days report back here, okay, that's fine,
Okay.
I'll move that.
Who's second?
But there's other committees as well, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, two other committees.
Two more committees. Information, Technology and General Services, and Public Works.
Okay, God, it gets complicated. All right. All right. We'll bring it back. All right. So that'll be the action of this committee. Next item?
Number 6, motion Reyes Perry, Garcetti Cardenas Labange relative to the establishment of recreational zones along the river.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. John Kapitsky, Aquatic Director with Recreation and Parks. And following on the heels of our second successful season of voting.
Congratulations.
Jason,
That was a lot of fun.
yeah, the committee has asked for a report on near-term recommendations regarding a designated recreation zone in the Glendale Narrows portion of the river. So meeting is convened by the Cooperation Committee of formed consensus among staff from the city, the county, the Army Corps, and the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, with an implementation date goal of May 2013.
Great.
The boundaries for the recreation zone have been proposed as the stretch of river beginning at the intersection of the 134 freeway and extending almost 6 miles to the point at which the river crosses under the 5 freeway. On a practical basis, the MRCA has expressed willingness to put their experience and resources to work in making the zone a reality. And 2 options have emerged to secure the zone designation, either to extend the existing permit or to obtain a new permit.
Can I ask you, where does the 5 freeway cross river? What other neighboring streets are around there? Do you know?
I couldn't speak to you in terms
Does
of
anybody?
actual streets.
Just above the 110,
By the Pasadena freeway?
yeah, just the Oso Park area.
Okay, so just south of Fletcher?
Yeah, well, all the way down to where the Riverside Bridge.
Turns, the new bridge is being built? Great, okay. That's where the river bottom actually finishes.
Yes.
Okay,
It's basically coincides.
it's natural. Okay.
All right. The MRCA has already created a document. It's calling a framework for management of the zone. It would spell out the types and terms of use by the public, as well as defining a statutory basis for enforcement, which could be used by any state authorized peace officer. And that would be in addition to the state fish and game officers that would focus on fishing regulations. So kind of a sampling here of some of the proposed terms of use would include access hours from sunrise to sunset. For boaters, there would be designated entry and exit points. So things are really delineated well, and there's a focus on structure.
Great.
And a prohibition of use during any period in which the National Weather Service has issued a flood watch or warning. So that's a safety consideration.
Okay.
Most importantly, the initial pilot program in 2013 would be conducted from May to October, would coincide with the warmest and driest months of the year and the existing periods of peak use. So that was thoughtfully considered.
Great.
And the next phase will be to seek public input. Meetings have already been scheduled in December and January, and we would then come back to the committee in January for a final proposal that would include a timeline and a budget if it's needed in advance of consideration by the full council.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, John. I remember when we first started this, the hesitation and the intrepidation, if you will. And thank you for your expertise on the Santa Monica Conservancy and the folks over at LACC, the Conservation Corps. So everyone stepped up and made a big difference. And just a small, we had about, I think, 25 kids from Charles White Grammar School by MacArthur Park show up, and they were just completely amazed and to see the gray heron and all the flora and fauna that was there. It just blew them away. It was really, really, really cool. And they actually got on the kayaks and they took off. We had to catch up to them. But it was just amazing. So thank you for this, and I'm looking forward. And the Army Corps is still coordinating with us, correct? And we're still the Army Corps is still involved.
They're involved. They were involved in the first meetings, and they will be talking to them about
Great.
working with this particular area.
Just for the record, I want to appreciate their hard work because they've been very supportive and making it happen as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any questions, Councilman? Okay. All right. So any action on this one? We'll report back January 2013.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So item number 7.
Number 7,
Oh,
motion.
wait. There's a card here on this one. Louis McAdams, come on up. I'm sorry.
Louis McAdams, Friends of the Los Angeles River. As part of a couple things, one, I wanted to say that the Sixth Street Bridge International Design Competition never would have happened if Friends of the Los Angeles River hadn't spent 2.5 years pushing for it when no one else was.
Thank you for that. I think to cut on to some of the Arts District folks who also lobbied for that.
Yeah.
After friends have advocated, that made the difference.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, with the 6th Street Bridge and the 7th Street Bridge, this neighborhood can now be called the Bridge District. So that's just...
It's been dubbed.
Huh?
It's been dubbed.
Well, whatever. But it now is it will now be the Bridge District.
Okay.
But the reason I wanted to talk for a second about on item 7, as part of the outcome of SB 1201, the LA River Access Bill that the state signed in August, we started beginning regular meetings with the County Department of Public Works to sort of see issues that need to be addressed that the County Public Works was not able or willing to address during the last 100 years, and adding recreation and education to their responsibilities was something they were not eager to take on, but now they're accepting that as of January, this is the state law. And I had a long, I'm not speaking really here for the county, obviously, or even for the Board of Friends of the Los Angeles River, but in this meeting with Gary Hildebrand at the county, he said that the county is not enthusiastic about the current configuration of the recreational zone because they feel like it's too difficult to have any control over it, to access at any time, night or day, to really set up any kind of a signal system that warns about inclement weather. And those seem like legitimate concerns. And because we now have this River Cooperation Committee, which seems to be one of these committees that meets so that they can just call for the next meeting, that it could actually be a forum because it has the county, the Corps, and the city working as equals. And it seemed to me that one way to deal with all these relatively complex questions and the questions that have risen out of success is to use that forum as a way to really work out some of these issues on the recreation zone. And Friends of Los Angeles River would love to be the host to such a thing. So I just wanted to put that into the air.
So given their posture and this existing committee that does meet, between the Cooperation Committee, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, and that the Cooperation Committee is not cooperating and they're not addressing issues of substance?
Well, they don't address hardly anything. I mean, but that's another question. But I thought of it as being a forum for this particular issue as a way to kind of work towards that committee becoming much more active and much more taking a lead in bringing together the county, core, and city on an equal basis.
Well, I do want to, with all due respect, Mr. McAdams, I do want to give credit to the folks who do meet, and without their dialogue, a lot of work that have gone this far would not have happened. And from that point of view, I know the different staffs, the different council office works hard with them. And what you bring up and the issues that you are bringing forward, we appreciate because it puts light on areas that we need to address. And from that point of view, I think it's important to understand the significance of your statement. But I don't want to dismiss either the hard work of the people that are involved.
Oh, I don't want to dismiss them. I just want them to be the forum for, I mean, from day one of the most difficult things in terms of creating river restoration has been the complexities of the county, city, and core working together with all their own different needs and their own different orientations.
Right.
And it seemed to me this was an issue which touched on all three of the levels of government, and this was a way to create a forum to actually work out these very workable, outable projects.
And I appreciate that intention, and now that you brought it to light, it's something we will focus on.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. And that's item number 6.
6.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7.
Number 7, please.
Motion LeBlanc Reyes relative to this assessment of the Los Angeles Glendale Water Reclamation Plant to determine availability of open space along the eastern bank.
Great. The last item. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Councilman.
Good afternoon, sir.
Councilman Weiser, how are you? My name is Hiro Neto. I'm the plant manager of the water reclamation facilities, Donald Tillman and Los Angeles Glendale. This is Gene Green, is my landscape architect.
Good morning, Gene Green. Nice seeing the councilman again. We saw him last week at a different meeting for Peace and Structure, so thank you and an opportunity to be here. So,
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Slideshow?
Great. We're here to discuss the motion by Councilman LaBonge in regards to some green space at the Los Angeles Glendale treatment plant. And to give you some background on the facility itself, go ahead, number 3. The Glendale plant was built in 1975 as a joint project between City of Glendale and City of Los Angeles. It is a wastewater treatment facility. We handle about 20 million gallons per day of wastewater, and we contribute about 10 to 13 million gallons per day to the LA River. In combination with the upstream plant, Donald Tillman plant, we contribute about 27 million gallons per day from the upstream plant also.
27 million gallons a year?
Day.
28.
Per day.
Per day.
Correct. It's a continuous flow.
That's a lot of water.
Right.
Good to see you, Enrique.
Yeah. The plant is a joint operation between City of LA and the City of Glendale. And Glendale pays 50% of the operating cost. The plant site, as you see here, is sited specifically to accommodate future expansion, to deal with population growth and such. And the area we've notated down at the bottom is the open green space that Councilman LaBonge was talking about in his motion. Okay, and we have looked at it, and glad to say this is a go project. We've already started working on it, but I'm sure that you want to be brought up to speed as to what we're doing. So here is Gene. Gene will be talking about the details of the project itself.
Okay.
No, forward.
Again, good afternoon. Opportunity to be here and talk to you about this as a landscape architect and a longtime city employee through engineering and sanitation planning. It's nice to see that I can get involved back into the business I should be into instead of managing a Japanese garden. So for me, it's just like outstanding. So the more I get involved in this, I also manage the staff that maintains the Glendale and Tillman Reclamation Plant too, the gardening staff. So I have a good outlook on the design and also the maintenance. I think a lot of us don't look at the maintenance portion of it. We always build, and we say, is it maintainable, sustainable, or is it staff?
Right.
We fortunately have the staff, and we're also going to be using reclaimed water on this site, which will be one of the very first ones we have. That maybe along the LA River corridor, we can now run a line down there to use reclaimed water. We talk about the river. The river comes from the Tillman water and the Glendale water. Again, I think when these programs you as a committee should look into, Glendale has reclaimed water available. It services Griffith Park now, and I think that's one of the things that I don't hear anybody say is that let's start using reclaimed water, maybe not the Atwater, is the Atwater Park down the road? The Atwater area there to create these water features, to create these things, you have a source of, it'll say 28 million gallons a day of water to create these resources, means Title 22. So I just want to bring that forward because everybody brings this committee, and I know you always think of these things in the future, so that's my statement to you is that there's a resource right there.
Right.
There's a view looking north. It's along the pathway that pedestrians could use to go up to Colorado Boulevard. To the right is our fence line. It's a 12-foot high fence line now that protects the plant from any intrusion.
This is on the other side of the existing bikeway.
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. And there are plans to create a loop of a bike path there too, but go ahead.
As we view looking south, you can see the LA River has lots of vegetation there, so a spot being right here for I call it a rest stop, not really a park, would be a good opportunity because you have Atwater Park and things to the south going on. We, as Hendo said, we'd already started working on this because I think some of the councilmen had reviewed our initial plan. We said, good, you got the approval, so let's start doing it. Let's start bringing some soil in. And so we started and we stopped, come back to this committee, let you know what we're doing, bring up to speed about our design. It hasn't changed much since your first viewing of it, but I'm going to walk you through it now. Our director, Enrique, is here. There in front there. He had he's a nice supporter of the garden and also any green spaces, so I appreciate him as a director. Sometimes in engineering, it's always the other way around. It's the stability and not the landscape. I like that he thinks both sides. He brought the idea of, I'll talk about some educational value for the treatment facility, so we'll bring that up next. The soil mounds there we'll be using for the landscape design in the project itself. I don't want to read this to you, but if you have it in front of you there, it's basically, this is on the screen here. It does give us opportunity to put DG pathway in. The 12-foot security fence has to be taken down and moved to the back to secure the treatment facility. It is a working wastewater treatment plant. The opportunity, we talked at the pre-meeting at the councilman's office about using some signs for the LA River revitalization, putting things in there to kind of spur on when people walk there, oh, this is what's going on. I understand there's a little bit of money left there for that kind of signage. Also, as Enrique had brought up at the meeting I met with last Friday, we have an opportunity to show people about water reclamation and use of reclaimed water, which is, we teach at the Tillman plant for our docents and volunteers. It's always taught there, but it doesn't get very far outside of there for the general public. Good opportunity to do that. And also is about 270 foot long, which is almost a football field long. So you can say, well, it's a project. It's pretty much, if you walk a football field, if you played football, you know how long that is.
Right.
It's 90 foot at the widest, but again, it's an opportunity just to sit there, enjoy the space, enjoy the seating there, and basically you look across the river. There's our first concept, hasn't changed anything. It's just an open space area with trees, a low shrubbery for security, a pathway just to walk in, enjoy, and sit down for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever you want.
Where's the nearest access point to this corridor?
Nearest one would be either Atwater Park or at Colorado, I believe. That'd be the nearest point. If we went back to the first slide, you can see you like me to go back there, I can show you where they
No,
are.
it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Now comes our concept design. I was very happy to be involved in this. Went through different iterations. We call it the LAG Open Space Greenway. It's open for, if you want to change the name, we thought LAG should identify us as the LAG facility. We'd like to take some credit for doing this. We're good to go right now. We're ready to move it with internal resources to get the thing done. You can see the signs there, that the water reclamation education. We'll have some mounting there on three sides. Right now it drains from the pathway down into the plant interior, which is a lawn area now. As Hedo said, this is a plant expansion area. We can at least deal with one plant expansion, if not the other before this thing has to ever even go away. I I'm really happy to move forward with this thing. I like us, with this committee's permission, is to kind of get this thing done and get this thing as an opportunity. And again, that's what I like to do. Enrique said we'll take down the fence line, the 12-foot by the river there, and just remove it there. And I'll put a depression buffer in there, maybe some river run rock. Fortunately, at the Tillman facility, when we expanded, I collected river rock that we used and just kept it and reused it 2 or 3 times over instead of AC. So now we can be able to move some over there, create a line there, create a small stream bed on there, just as a reiteration of the river itself and the space there. So that's the end of my presentation. I guess we're ready for questions, or ready for, sounds good to me, and let's move on.
Well, it's just one question. In terms of, these are opportunities to duplicate this type of approach. And you're going to have a lot of private folks who have these fences and don't see the connectivity yet. And for securing reasons, they're hesitant to change or to make it desirable to even walk by because it enhances security with less people. But our school of thought is, converting your backyard into your front yard. That's the mantra we've been using. So is it possible to have like an understanding of if I were to approach a private person and say, you've got so much linear feet or frontage in the backside facing the river, if you were to take down, let's say, 40 feet of it, this is the cost you might incur if you just did these basic improvements. Can we have like a boilerplate, if you will, a thumbnail sketch of costs, so we could convince people to continue this exposure, because this football field wide place should continue to grow along the river corridor, ideally.
Yes, there's one situation with leaving this place wide open. Enrique is saying that we'll leave it open right now. We don't know who's may be moving in there. He might take a residency. We don't know yet. So we're going to say let's go for the best. The worst conditions, we might put up some kind of fence in the future is the last part. So this is a nice model project to see how it's going to be used. The 12-foot fence was originally a 6-foot fence. It would be escalated to 12-foot. Head was the plant manager there due to security of the plant. It's a operating plant as be there. So we're going to start with the good faith effort that this is going to be an excellent, well-used area. At night, there's not much there, not much lighting itself. We might want to put a camera up there just to see the activities there to go from there. So again, we're trying to go with approach that let's make this available to whoever wants it.
And I want to be careful. It's almost like a frontier where we're engaging stuff we've never done before. So what are the lessons learned and all that good stuff?
It'd be a good lesson to learn a lot from this thing. I hope I'm involved with future ones around here. I just love this kind of stuff to do.
Well, if we can have a report back on when do you think we can have a report back that speaks to the progress of this?
Gene said it'll be done next month.
I said 3 months we would be complete with the project. Get to go ahead.
So by, let's say, January, our next meeting?
End of January.
I would just say to let them, because I think that's what he wants, to just say, move forward. And
That's what I want to say too, believe me.
Yeah, no.
I'm talking about when can they come back to report?
Well, when they have
When's
the
our next meeting?
groundbreaking.
When's our next meeting here?
In January, the end of January.
Okay, it's the end of January. There's a report back, and maybe you can just give us a thumbnail sketch of costs, so I can invite people to continue doing the same on the private side.
Sounds very good to me. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, thank you and congratulations.
Very much.
This is really good work.
Glendale, do they have anything? Do you have
They
work
do
with
have, they did express some concerns to me about future expandability. But we're looking at 2025, 2026 projections for maybe expanding from 20 MGD to maybe 40 MGD, so we're not taking up this green space yet. But long-term, they had some concerns.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do all we can.
Yes.
That'll be great. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
We have one speaker card, and any action on this one? There's no action
You
on
want
it?
to continue it to January? then?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's continue to January for that report back. Oh, yes, we do. Mr. Omar Bronson, come on up.
Omar Brownson, LA River Revitalization Corporation. Just wanted one quick comment on projects like this, and you'd highlighted the importance of the public benefits. Tomorrow, the council will be hearing a proposal on the parcel tax for the parks measure. We were part of the Verde Coalition and supported some of the polling work that was done. And And I attended the last polling meeting, and I thought it would be worth noting that 87%, which was the highest level of respondents in terms of support for the project, came with keeping the LA River clean. So of all the things, they tested 15 different arguments as to why people might support this parks measure, and the LA River was the number one thing. It's got 87%. The next closest was in the low 70s. So I think this effort of recreation and supporting the LA River measure that you're voting on tomorrow will go to a huge way of projects like this.
I will quote you on that tomorrow, on the floor.
I will send you an email with the exact language.
Great. No, I do want to, that's important. I mean, what's great about the Prop O projects is that it gave us the ability to look at those projects that are underground and that are infrastructure in nature. Unfortunately, a lot of folks don't see it as much as one would have thought. So I think are we almost past that phase, Enrique, you think? Or we still have a lot of underground infrastructure work? You can come to that. I know you're trying to avoid this, but sorry.
Well, when we have a choice of using above-ground treatment versus underground, we would go with the above-ground because it's visible, whether it's the wetlands, whether it's, the Humboldt model, which, why do we call it Humboldt, Lupe?
It's the name of the street in front of one of the entrances,
I
but
thought-
it's now actually called the Ed P. Reyes
Correct.
Riverway.
So I wanted to make a correction.
I was avoiding that.
Am I missing something?
No, I was very humbled by that. Thank you.
Anyway.
That was amazing. Thank you.
I think in that
Pleasant
case,
surprise.
we would use the above ground, but I think we inevitably, because of the nature of the multi-benefit, which includes water quality and water supply, we are still going to make use of the underground cisterns and things of that nature.
And it's that visibility that I think encourages people to want to continue pushing forth on measures and propositions in the future where they can actually see how that really translates into something such as desirable as bike paths and greenways and riverways and all that good stuff. So I applaud you and your staff for the hard work and the planning department, everybody involved, but also for Omar for your hard work and making sure we keep pushing as hard as we can. So
I wanted to
thank you.
mention the support for tomorrow. So.
That was amazing. That's a great statistic. That's beautiful. Okay, so then we have any action on this one?
No.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, that's the continue.
we'll continue this item to the end of January. And Councilor, any comments? No, it's good. It's good to have you in committee. Good to have you here. That's great.
Glad to be here.
I know, you're welcome all the time. Okay, anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.